Hello and welcome to another episode of AR Chat. A little different today because we've got one of our friends from Down Under joining us. So we are not on our normally scheduled timelines of Friday mornings. And we've got Stephen traveling at an airport, so he'll drop off. Episode cares a lot, and we get to be the first
We're
person.
so organized, we know exactly how many. A lot.
I mean, we're just a bunch of friends having a chat, right? This week, we're so lucky to have Michael Warrilow to be your first faux interview to talk about
Yeah.
analyst relations and analyst work. So I know that you think we're getting really close to the origin stories of
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
AR. But before you dive into that, could you introduce yourself? I know everyone knows who you are, and you are our closest person to Gartner in terms of time of employment. So please.
Yeah. I'm your domesticated ex-Gartner analyst. Um, and I've hello everyone, Michael Warrilow. I have worked in four different analyst firms now. First one was MetaGroup back in, and I'm going to come back to MetaGroup in terms of your big question, Crystal. They got bought by Gartner, and I created a boutique analyst firm with a colleague, John Brand from MetaGroup. He's now at Forrester. That's where that kind of business ended up. And been in and out of vendor roles, IBM, Objective, Australian company, VMware, probably the most notoriety, certainly these days. And joined Gartner in 2013, and I worked up there till a couple of months ago.
Wow, that's great. So you have been around for a while, and I mean,
I have.
someone talks about MetaGroup, it's like, oh, those were early days.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I needed that to get to your question.
Yeah. Which is, how do you think this whole thing started and or who might be the first AR person?
Yeah. So being an analyst, if you don't know the answer, my belief is you need to ask someone who does know the answer, right? So I went to is a name drop, um, Dale Kutnick, who was one of the early analysts at Gartner, and he started MetaGroup, right? And so he was there pretty early on in the beginning. As the set two episodes ago with Jan, you had Jan on the call. She was saying it's probably someone in IBM.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't have the canonical answer, but Dale's answer is it was someone at IBM. In fact, I've got the name. I'll dig it up before we finish. And he talked to her in the very, very, very early 90s. There's a lot of other names I saw from the mid 90s. I guess this is an interesting flip on it. Who was the first AR person I talked to?
Oh,
Wow, I don't know. It would have been someone in 2001 when I joined MetaGroup. So you're getting very close, Crystal. I'll give you a name in a second. I was going to share a slide, but technical problems aside, yeah, it was someone that helped Dale, and obviously, Gideon started, the history there from the financial services tracking IBM. So I think you're on the money.
So
You're
what
getting
I
happened?
very
think
close.
it's got to be the
What?
IBM. Looking at the history of the industry, what are they at? 115-year-old company. It's got to have been around the time that kind of IBM was starting to go through some challenges in the early 90s. That's what I would
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, it's certainly 1990. Should have prepared better. I'll dig it up from an email I got from Dale.
and also we talk about IBM so much, right? Like we are not sponsored by anyone, so those are not any plugs. It's just
Should it be?
literally.
Would it be a plug if IBM wants to sponsor AR
Yeah,
Chat?
we're not. We just do this for giggles. So there's certainly no money involved. None that I've seen. If Nathan and Crystal are taking bribes on the side, I'm not
Well,
getting
no,
any
I
love.
was gonna ask if we figure out who the first AR person was, do we get to retire? Is that like winning the
Is that the
Is
goal?
lottery?
the
Right.
podcast over? Is the podcast over when we finish the mystery, Crystal?
No, we'll find some other mystery.
So,
Yeah, you've
Michael, I'm
reached the
really
end of the
interested.
internet.
Yeah. I'm really interested, Michael. So you mentioned you were a couple of months outside of Gartner. What are you doing now?
Well, so the first couple of months were really fantastic. I really just got back to doing some research, right? I did this massive, massive deep dive into AI. And because, I'm a computer scientist by background, and I studied AI in the early to mid 90s. And I got to a point where, I was just using it and I was terrified that it just seemed like magic to me. So I had to go on the full journey of discovering how it works and why they made me learn linear algebra in my university days. And so there's been a lot of that. And the other interesting thing I'll say, and so it's been very refreshing, is just how much easier it is to start a business these days compared to when I did it
Mhm.
20 years ago, right? I got a laptop delivered in less than an hour. I got a website in probably half an hour. I was able to incorporate it as a business with about 1 hour of online application. So I've been getting ready. I'm kind of just coming out of the cupboard, so to speak. The thing I've been working on is going to be a kind of a mini magic quadrant that I'm going to give away for free, right? I've worked across
See,
different parts of this industry and different things. I feel like it's time to give something back. I'm kind of toying with ideas like, is there an open source equivalent model for research? I want to democratize access to research.
there was,
Um,
and so Dave Vellante, he tried to do something like that when he started Wikibon, which I think has now become the Cube Research. But I love the idea.
you know,
It's
um, Gartner gets everything handed to on its plate for good reason, and I'm not going to bash Gartner. That's not what I'm here to do. They've been incredibly good to my career, and I'm still a shareholder. That's a whole other
that's
discussion.
that's that's been a fun ride the last 12 months. So it's
Yeah, that's
interesting,
right.
Michael. I had dinner with Daniel Newman, and we got some chance to chat over breakfast. What he's doing with Signal and their sort of new kind of non-vendor survey platform to build a sort of comparative analysis. That's interesting.
Yeah,
It still sits behind the paywall and you have to get access to it. So it kind of maybe does half of what you're describing, but then the monetization model. I'd love to chat to you offline. I'm not a fan of paywalls and
no, me neither. I'm going to give away everything gratis. I mean, I won't be able to track it. It's almost if you love something, let it free, right? All these magic
I'm
quadrants.
exactly of the same opinion. I mean, this is probably a discussion because we sound like we're kindred spirits. So I didn't know this going into the call, but I think the paywall is dead. I think subscription paying, and let me elaborate, Nathan, before you respond, and I'm
No,
happy
I
to
was going to
discuss.
use that as a segue.
Okay, go for it, buddy. Go
I
for it.
was going to say, let's use that as a segue. So you believe the paywall is dead. I think the era of GEO or AIO, whatever you want to call it, would agree with you, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, there's any number of studies out there that say the most cited source in an LLM query is usually a G2 or another peer review website.
Mm, mm.
Just using this as context, not to bash on Gartner because we're not going to do
No,
that,
no.
Mike. I'd love to hear, how did Gartner evolve over your time there, especially as these new technologies, especially AI, has come onto stage and really made people rethink the way they go about everything.
Yeah, I think that's very much a work in progress. I can really only
Mm-hmm.
talk to you about the first half of the year because there's been a lot of developments. And if we talk about it with them specifically and then a bit more broadly, even
Yeah,
my
let's.
experience, right? Gartner, pretty much started to embrace AI really well in mid 2024. By then, they'd started to be able to the thing that Gartner has, the other part of your question, right? They own end user advisory,
Yes.
the business decision makers,
100%.
right? Um, the high end piece of it. There is this whole rest of the market, like where G2 and maybe others, even just good old Google sit, and they have their influence. They need influence. Well, they need to help to make decisions. And to me, part of what I'm going to be doing is giving something away to get something back to Stephen's point. But you bring that back to the Gartner aspect of it. They started to absorb AI kind of quickly. It's good in that respect, and they needed to, right? This is a change in the whole research in landscape, right? I mean, I can get two junior researchers for $30 each a month, right? And that's what I've done. They help me out with all the legwork. And so for Gartner, I think, what they've done is in the internal tools. I hear mixed messages about Ask Gartner, and I never got to experience it. They need to keep going down that route, and I hear better things about what Forrester have done from some people.
So
So
Michael,
they're
I
on that
mean,
journey, but they got a way to go.
Yeah. And I'm just kind of curious too. At the root of the question was, you were there for a while.
Okay.
How do you feel like it has changed over the years?
Not enough, to be honest with you. I think any long term, speaking generically in terms of, all the kind of tenured Gartner analysts, and I'm kind of funny, right? Some last 2, 3, 4 years, and some just stay there forever till they
20,
die, right?
30,
And
yeah,
I,
yeah.
I was this weird kind of 12-year, and I'd also seen the world outside the rest of the analyst world before I joined them, which is somewhat unique. Because what I'd say now that worries me a little bit, they're getting a lot more junior analysts. They're not replacing the more senior analysts. And those senior analysts are kind of frustrated inside the machine. There are things inside the machine that are even more frustrating for us than dealing with Gartner from the outside looking in. So yeah, but again, to be fair to them, I always said the enemy of the good is the perfect. And that's what holds Gartner up a few too many times. When you see bureaucracy, sometimes it is purely out of a good intent to maintain that objectivity. But what would I say? It gets more bureaucratic each year, and that gets more frustrating for everyone. Um, I could
so
talk about their
Michael,
business model, but that's a whole other discussion.
Yeah, let's not. Yeah.
maybe steering you clear of talking about your previous employer and going back to the paywall conversation. My sort of perspective there is, why would I pay $7,500 to read a standalone report or buy a 150K seat for a bunch of reports when I can do deep research on Gemini or ChatGPT? And I see you roll your eyes, Nathan, and you're right to roll your eyes.
Not rolling my eyes.
And I see it because you mentioned it there, and I think it's the thread I want to pull on. Is good enough good enough, knowing that that report is not as insightful that I get from ChatGPT or Gemini as it would be from a peer-reviewed kind of deep sort of philosophical and deep sort of research piece that I'd get from Gartner. But it's also not 7.5K and costing me 150K for a seat. So
Let me throw a tangible example out there, and I'd love to have a conversation about it.
and I'm not bashing those guys. I'm playing with the model in my mind to see where it goes.
Company, I would bring this to get any down to market analysis. We embraced it all, right? So we had our subscriptions, we had our market sizing research, but I also was playing with deep research. Because we had an enterprise version of basically everything. We had like one of those nice model switchers where it was APIs into the back end.
Mhm.
But I did a deep research query for the cellular specific opportunity in cybersecurity. So if you take the SASE market, for example, you lead with cellular solutions. You have to take the TAM and figure out your SAM, right? Your service addressable market. It was bringing back a lot of results from non-reputable sources, though. And so this is getting to my question: markets and markets, right? Markets and markets comes back all the time, or Grand View Research. Like a lot of these kind of research publication factories that just take information and publish it up and sell it, or publish a press release to fill the LLM query with results.
Mhm.
And I just, going back to good enough, I could not feel comfortable advocating that we use any of the deep research results that had so strongly cited those kinds of sources, knowing what I know as an AR pro. If I wasn't in analyst relations, I don't know that I would know that markets and markets is not reputable.
Right. So I'm going to take it back to you, Michael. So with what Nathan just said, you're like, what if we can open source this research? So what, like, we know you're an ex-Gartner analyst, you go back to the MetaGroup days, right? But we are part of a group of maybe 30,000 people at best.
The best, yeah.
And that's
And I'm talking
extreme, I
about a
think.
broader ecosystem here. So there's AR, there's analysts, and then there's stakeholders at VP and up in technology that knows that there are, what Nathan was saying is, people just filling up space, and then there's actual people that are doing real research and know what they're talking about. So
Primary research.
yeah, so like, how with your model, like, how would a regular person know that what you're making up open source would be?
Yeah. So let's look at that a couple of ways. I want to do directly to Nathan's comment and a real crisp example that I've heard. How long this holds true is the big question. They said no one is going to go to the board and say, I prepared this using ChatGPT, right? It's not credible for business level decision making. Now, if you look at Gartner, it serves at least 3 very different communities, right? And maybe part of your 30,000 is in the invest community as well, right? I probably did 10% of my calls to Wall Street. There is the vendor side, and that's where your marketing and maybe it can help, AI can help with that stuff. But I mean, the core of Gartner's business, what is it? Maybe 70, 80% of the business. And I guess you'd include conferences in that, right? It's guiding and advising technology business decision makers, right? And nobody that I can see is going to disrupt that. So I guess to your question then, Crystal, it's such a restrictive model though, right? And I've had challenges with their model from the very beginning. When my old firm, we had a price on a web page. That was our sales machine, right? There's the price. Do you want to pay for it? Go for it. I want to build an open community, right? I used to always say, and it even sounds still a little bit elitist, that the thought that there's this 1% of people that are just so much smarter than everyone else. I don't buy into that, right? I can see hopefully grooming a set of people that will contribute and do peer review. There's things that end users know about technology that even the best Gartner analysts couldn't understand. How good or bad is customer support really? How good or bad is the product documentation? That's sort of some of the stuff I'm exploring. I guess I mean, I've had some great wins. Sentiment analysis was really cool. That works really well through AI. Deep research, I was so blown away for the first couple of weeks. And then I just realized, my God, the amount of slop that's coming out of this thing.
Yep.
Please shut up. Shut up. I mean, all I'm doing the last 3 months is getting to a point where I'm going to generate these 2-page outputs. And, maybe for us, for the humans at the moment, it's a matter of, finding those diamonds in the rough
You
amongst all the slop that comes out of AI.
you hit the
But as
nail.
a junior researcher, it's been incredibly helpful. Doing some of
Yeah,
the
I think
legwork.
and structuring your thought that then
Mm,
you can go lay stuff into. Staring at a
yeah.
blank page is really hard. Getting a 50% draft of something that you know has got 10 hours worth of work left in it, but not having to worry about what are the headings that I choose and what's the introduction look like and
Yeah.
that type of stuff.
Yeah.
That's the 50% cheat code.
Yeah, I used
Knowing that the sources of the data you need to go and spend the 10 hours validating, but not having to lay out that's how a lot of how I use it to kind of, I'll just write freehand and then get it to lay it out for me, because then the cognitive load of having to structure the headings and the layouts and is just not there. I just don't need to do it.
the thing I like about it, and maybe this is bad for society in general, is when I'm feeling very brain drained, but I'm working on something, and I can give like ChatGPT 75% of what I need in just my version of slop, and it can help me organize it. That's nice.
Mm,
But
That's what I do a lot. That's what I
you know,
do a lot of, and then I'll let it sit because my brain's dead, and then I'll come back and do a deep edit. That's
but
something
you know
I
what's
yeah.
do a lot.
interesting on all this is, you were talking about peer insights being an excellent source of potential data to mine, 100%. But if you allow me to get a little meta for a second, not MetaGroup or Meta, the Facebook company, but just Meta. I was on Reddit the other day, and Alexis or Alex Hanahan, the guy that founded Reddit, he's also Mr. Serena Williams for those in the know. Um, yeah, he and this was quite scary. He said that he thinks the internet is already dead. Dead internet theory, where most of what you're interacting with, reviews, comments, is is AI or bot generated content.
Right.
And to me, the
I think we're
implication of
probably
that is
there.
terrifying because, again, we're talking about something like peer insights or other available sources of kind of end user commentary being a great resource to mine. But yeah, all this is to
Guys,
say, it's
well,
just
I'm gonna have to bounce and catch a flight.
Safe
I
Houston.
travels,
really did want to
Stephen.
join in. Michael, love to connect offline. I think there's at least
Absolutely.
2 or 3 hours of discussion here, but you're in safe hands with Nathan and Crystal. But if I don't go, I'm not going to get on my flight. So
Oh,
I'll speak
safe
to you soon.
travels.
Yeah,
No
speak
worries.
soon.
So
I'm fairly certain.
one of those part twos, I'd love to do an APAC centric chat with you guys, or get some of the professionals from APAC involved in this, because there's a whole dimension of AR for this small part of the world called Asia Pac.
Yeah,
That is a particular challenge, I think, an extra challenge for the AR community to deal with.
yeah.
Yeah, we haven't done a format like that yet, but we certainly
Mhm.
can. Here we are in the last quarter of the year, and it feels like we're all on skates, like racing to whatever end of the quarter. So, yeah, I look forward to I honestly, I love APAC people because every time I work with someone in APAC, I swear they are on it. And it's literally because you're on the other side of the world, probably decrypting everything that's happening in North America and Europe because everyone is now asleep, but you still have to get things done. Um,
Well, we are in the future, right? You talked about Friday morning. It's Friday morning already for me.
that's so funny, and I always bring this up when I talk to someone in Singapore or Asia or in Australia, and I'm always like, "How is the future? Is it bright?" That's
So
It is. It is.
yeah, how is it
I'll
on?
give you the lottery numbers after the call.
thanks.
No, but it's a fascinating time in technology, and I was failing to actually like bring my point together there, but all of the potential upsides that come with AI, it's also hard to separate them from the potential downsides. And
Mm,
maybe that is one value kind of proposition that analysts will continue to have, and I think expert
yes.
practitioners as well, helping separate the noise.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's always been the case. You're right, and to your point, it's probably not never been more important. I talk about that as triangulation, right? Getting all these different inputs and figuring out the signal from the noise. Just one other thing, about what you said, because I talked about AI, and maybe that's a topic, and I think it will be for all of the years to come. I did a presentation yesterday as part of my coming out at a Nutanix event, and I had a section on AI, and I did it kind of tongue in cheek because a lot of the end users are jaded by AI, right? And I did it quite humorously, and I, as a joke, ended up saying generative AI is just the new Microsoft Excel, right? Particularly when you combine it with agentic, right? You're getting all the slop together and you're spitting it out. So Excel is great at copy and paste, the world's best integration tool, and then democratizing coding, right? And that as an aside, the point I was going to make was I had two very different sets of conversations with the same need at the end of the day. One of them was from someone who came up and said, "Look, I do certifications for CPAs, chartered professional accountants, and all. They've got to have industry accreditation." He said, "I can't find any good research or even just educational material from my audience for business professionals on what AI is, right? If you think we're all struggling with it." And the other was, let's just say, a very large government agency, and they said, "I need you to come in and talk to the business about what this stuff is." The pace of change has probably never required good analysis, independent analysis now than ever, right? I just going through the slop is hard work.
It really is. It it's a full-time job.
Hmm?
It's a full-time job just to sort through all of it, and so I absolutely endorse the idea of using AI to be your junior research assistant or
Yeah.
to be
Wait.
50 or 60% of the way there. Yeah, it is very much it's going to amplify anything we put into it. So when you're looking at data sources put out, and maybe this is where the onus is on vendors, right? The more the more slop you put out as a vendor, the more the models are going to be trained on that slop and the less
Yeah.
you AI becomes in
Yeah.
general. Now, who's
Yeah.
the onus on there? Is the onus on the vendor to make sure that they're not just filling the internet with marketing speak? Or is it on the, model providers to figure out how to parse through all of that? This is not about
Well,
relations anymore.
yeah, look, I'll add another dimension that's relevant to this audience, right? One of my best personal friends developed friendship with over 20 years engaging with him is Simon Sharwood from The Register, right? They are one of, in my opinion, the few investigative IT news outlets still going, right? And his principle or their principle at the register is use any AI generated code in any article and you're fired, right?
Wow.
Yeah. And it's funny. I have this discussion with him. I say, keep to that principle, but you know what? You can still get it to help you do some edit, grammar checking and some of these other things.
Yeah.
But I stand to that principle, and the role of the media in this landscape is obviously changing a lot as well. And so maybe that is still a role for the analysts to help in this new media landscape, which is still fighting through all that slop.
Right. It's interesting. I was listening to probably some show, and they were talking about how when the internet came around and people were using social media, they were like, oh, this is the end of the journalist.
Yep. Yep.
They're still journalists, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I think what
Less
is
less
significant,
of them.
yeah, but what's significantly different, I think, now is that we've got AI slop and then we've got AI summarization.
Of the slop.
Right, so we're like feeding AI to our AI?
It's
Yes.
like signal degradation, right? If you have a signal originally that's strong, put it through a mirror or whatever, it's not as strong anymore. I feel like this is an awful analogy, but yeah, at what point?
So, Nathan and I are on this panel for my company's event. It's coming up in a couple of weeks, right? And I had gotten like my fill of like LinkedIn business jargon. And as I was thinking about like how to frame up this conversation about where humans still matter, right? I was thinking about telling the panel as we were preparing, try not to use any business jargon and see if you can get through this panel without talking about elevating, activating, accelerating,
Touching base, sinking, circling back.
like any of the jargons. And it just really got me thinking, like, is that because everybody is copy editing or ideating or what using AI to create content, business content, and therefore because the models know that this is how business speak goes, now everybody it's like proliferated. You know what I mean? Just-
Yeah, I do. It's a curse of being. I was in product marketing for a while as well, right? And I'm a writer by hobby. Try and remove every instance of ly from your text. You can pretty much get rid of half of that hype. Just anything that ends in ly in a sentence is probably unnecessary. I do use AI. You can, one of the funny journeys is, right? You can get AI to improve the prompts. They call this kind of meta prompting, right? And I've got prompts that say, get rid of all the marketing buzzwords, make this really natural, neutral language. Right? There is way too much marketing speak in our industry.
Yeah, and I think that's been incentivized too. If you go to submit a speaking proposal for a trade show, oftentimes you look at the best practices and it incentivizes those things, right? Because you need to make sure that your session sounds compelling and that it's also technical. And so people a lot of times I think are, even without AI, it's a checkbox exercise. If you're working with an agency and you're riffing on your speaking proposal. Well, I'm going to do this to amplify the effects of X, Y, and Z. Like, I think that is just what naturally happened.
Hey, you hit on something. I know we're probably getting near time, but here's why this is so important. Putting the Gartner analyst hat back on, and I'll tell you a funny story. Right, I have such a fine-tuned BS detector.
Yeah.
I come with a good one as an Australian, and then 20 years an analyst. It's at the next level. I remember being at a Gartner conference and doing a one-on-one. You do these millions of one-on-ones. But we could have had the fun day in the life of a Gartner analyst and the various days. At symposiums on this week, I think, in Orlando. That's a grueling event for the analysts. They talk to 40, 50, 60 speed
Well,
date.
everybody who attends.
Oh my God. Yes, that's true. But the analysts are in the dungeon, or I think in Orlando, it's out in this tent. I remember being just um, talked to by a vendor rep spokesperson, and I caught myself. I said, I'm not actually listening to a word this guy is saying. I'm
Yeah.
actually thinking about what I'm going to have for lunch. Now, what does that mean for you guys when you're preparing to talk to analysts? The thing that always got me was the war stories, right? And that doesn't need to be polished, right? And Gartner have an AR analyst relation. You probably know these people better than ever, than anyone, right? They can help you with that. I don't want a polished presentation. I'd love to hear just the real war stories and customer references. That's when the credibility and the dialogue with a Gartner analyst, and I'm sure any good analyst is the same, right? They can see through all of those LY words and all that beautifully prepared. Uh, I'll pick on Microsoft for a second because they're so good at this. I used to joke with some other executives. As soon as I heard their spokespeople say, "Our customers tell us that," I knew they were just going on message, right? And I knew that they probably never talked to a customer in their
Yeah, I was
life.
going to say the customers didn't say that.
Mm. The other one that just gets me, please, I'd love to get this one out of the industry, is meeting the customers where they are. That makes me vomit a little bit every time I hear it. If we could get rid of that one, please, put it on your list, Crystal, please.
One
Will
of my
do my job to make sure that people strike that from their
Good.
vocabulary.
one of
Thank
my
you.
one of my trade show
Mission
best
accomplished.
practices. One of my trade show best practices, Michael. I'd love to get your take if it's a good one. I philosophically believe that too many people, especially at a symposium or an RSA, you name it, they try to use their 30-minute one-on-one to change the world. I
Mhm.
actually do the opposite. Like, I'm a big fan of using that as just a time to really, in an informal way, shoot the breeze with an analyst, talk a little bit about the company, ask them about the event, but like, that is not where you move mountains.
It's where you build relationship. You're
Exactly.
100% right there, Nathan. Some of the best one-on-ones is when a seasoned AI person like you will say, "Let's just go for a coffee." Because honestly, you do 10 to 15 of these things, and there's a presentation or two in the middle, and there's a breakfast meeting, and there's a dinner. You're just running from pillar to post, if you know that expression, all days. You can really build the relationship in that one-on-one, because I guarantee you, if you're just there with a set of speaking points and a message, it's going right in one ear and out the other for me.
And Michael, you'll remember that person because they first
Mm,
helped you stretch your legs a little bit,
yeah, yeah,
got you a coffee that wasn't from a big giant thing,
yep,
uh, and you had 10 minutes of just being Michael and not
yeah.
partner analyst.
Yeah.
I
There's one of the analysts here in APAC. He used to run, maybe he still does. I think last year, this year was Christian Steenstrup. He runs Symposium
Yep.
Gold Coast. He would put up just photos on the wall of his dungeon booth, right? And try to personalize this space that you spend, you know, it's too many hours for too many days back to back just to personalize this prison that he was in.
Michael, that's so funny. Oh my gosh.
So we've had a really wide ranging,
We have.
some could call it eccentric, if we're being generous, if we're being kind, conversation today. Not your fault, my fault
No, that's me.
mostly.
That's probably my fault.
Um,
I think it's
where do,
all of us.
yeah, where do you think this industry's going? And you can mean
Oh,
you can take that to
yeah.
be analyst relations, you can take that to be analysts, or all of us, or society, like however you want to take it.
Well, look, so that's a too big a question to answer. What's the thing that I'm focused on right now? I am worried about a disturbing trend in this industry where there are some vendors that are behaving, um, the word I've used a lot is diabolically. Um, I won't mention any names, Broadcom, or Citrix, or a few others, that I do not want to see that kind of behavior get amplified. There is just a destruction of partner ecosystems. There's a destruction of customer value going on purely in the sole interest of the shareholders. Now, that's a bigger question than we can answer. None of these companies need to be charities. A person in the event yesterday was saying we do have a moral and social responsibility as well, right? This client was in non-for-profit healthcare, and their costs had gone up 600%. So to me, with no warning, right? To me, that's the thing I want to help with. Some of the Davids against the Goliaths. And the Goliaths always need to be here, and they've got their place and everything. But there's a room for a little bit of compassion in this world, and I feel like it's my opportunity to give something back, right?
That's
So
well said. That's well said. You should, and
okay,
I'm going to make this connect live on air. It's not live. Connect with
of course
Howard
not.
Holton. Connect with Howard Holton at GigaOM. If you don't know him, he just took over as CEO. We were just talking on LinkedIn the other night after the AWS outage about
Right.
this notion of, in every industry, if the ultimate goal is to consolidate as much power as possible, the idea of resiliency, competitiveness, it just goes out the window. And I think
Mm.
that speaks to what you were saying. So I think you guys are kindred spirits in that way. And you could probably collaborate on some fun stuff too.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, that's the fun thing about it. And look, the challenge for all of us, for good and bad, is Gartner is that in that situation, right? If you look at the publishing industry, it goes through those waves of consolidation, but no one has been able to uh, successfully compete against Gartner in the long term. And that's got some good things and some bad things about it. At MetaGroup, we always used to joke that we were the Hungry Jacks, right? Our burgers were better, and it's good to have healthy competition in any industry.
You,
Nathan,
yeah.
weren't we talking about someone, I can't remember,
Oh, hang
say
on, Hungry Jacks is Burger King for you guys, isn't it? I think it's Burger King. Yeah,
probably
yeah, yeah, yeah.
We
So
were Michael, we were going with it.
we were
No
just
one would have
with it.
known.
We were like, we're just silly Americans. We have no idea what you're
yeah,
saying.
no, it's a funny story. Look it up if you're interested, everyone. Burger King had its own franchisee who copyrighted it as Hungry Jacks in Australia. Burger King. Mm.
Someone had said to us, and I know we're trying to wrap, but in no area of business is there a Gartner equivalent. Were we talking about this, Nathan?
I'm going to say yeah, because it makes me sound good.
I can't remember. Like, we're to think about
Are you
um,
saying there's
another.
no,
Go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, are you saying that there's in no industry is there like such a consolidated leader?
With such a wide footprint. So
Mm.
if you were to think about, gosh, I don't know, maybe
Would Apple,
Salesforce.
would the hyperscalers not count plus Apple? Like
Well, they've
Apple,
got competitors, right? I mean, I think you're onto something there, Crystal. And it's funny when I took off the
Do
Gartner,
you know who
you
it
know,
was? I'll name drop. I think it was Joyce Thompson. I can't remember where she's at right now, but she was an analyst a long time. We should probably have her on too. But I think she's the one who said that to me. In no industry is there a Gartner equivalent.
a Gartner equivalent sort of business. What?
Domination.
Strength,
Strength.
domination. Yep, yep.
Strength is a better word. Maybe I'll edit that.
Well, look, and so that's a good thing for this audience to keep in mind, right? What what most of this audience engages with is just a small part of Gartner, right? The thing that they're unstoppable at, through some acquisition, and they'll keep acquiring if they need to grow. Um, they've got thousands of people waiting for your call. And if you're a bank or a government agency or what, insurance, manufacturing, retail, whatever, you know that if you get your seat with them and it's not as contentious as it is on the vendor side, they know that they'll ring their Gartner rep who isn't as adversarial as a lot of you may experience. And they will get
Look,
them someone to talk to. Yeah, look, it is a different side of the. It's funny to me to thinking about it. How am I going to play and where am I going to play? No one comes close until I guess that's to your point, Crystal. Right? They have thousands of people waiting for your call. Right?
well,
There's how many actually good analysts they've got. They've got some good and they've got some bad, but there's no one you could ring to have that depth of and range more than depth, actually, to be honest with you. Sometimes I think they're not as deep as they need to be. But in terms of range, they're the one-stop shop for end-user IT decision-making, right?
I'll tell you what, though. I think the challenge and the opportunity in the industry is visibility. In specific industries, in specific markets and technologies, there are individual analysts like yourself or
Mm,
others who have deep expertise, deep end user contacts, and are the equivalent of Gartner in that sense. I think the challenge becomes making the market aware of that
mm,
because it's very easy, like you said, either as a vendor or as an end user to phone Gartner or to request a briefing. It is much harder to find a Michael or to find, a boutique analyst firm who does not have the reach, visibility, and searchability. So I
mm.
honestly think that's where the greatest challenge and opportunity lies
Yeah,
for the wider ecosystem.
I agree. I agree 100%.
Somebody run with it.
Yeah, with that, I think we can say this has been an episode of AR Chat. Thank you, Michael, for joining us and taking us on this journey literally around the world. And I hope that we can continue this conversation in a couple months and see what you're doing and how you're changing the world of democratizing research.
Yep. And helping out the little guy.
Yeah, we love that.
I love that.
And till the next time, bye, everyone.